Welcome back. The ever-increasing interest rates are putting strain on food production. The South African Reserve Bank recently hiked the interest rate by 50 basis points, bringing it to 8.25%, the highest level in 14 years. The Beefmaster Group says this is a blow for consumers and that it is impacting the agricultural and beef value chains. To discuss this further, I'm joined by Roelie van Reenen, Supply Chain Executive at the Beefmaster Group. Roelie, thank you so much for speaking to us this evening. And I want to start off by finding out from you what the ripple effects are of food price inflation reaching double-digit figures in South Africa.
Well, that ripple effect is, in fact, actually devastating to the consumer. We're sitting with a consumer that's already under tremendous pressure, given all the hikes that has been present in the last 24 months, given fuel or problems from the European crisis of the war. Those effects come down to the consumer, and in the end, the consumer pays for all these things that they need. They so desperately need food. Food is one of those basic foodstuffs like water, but in the end, the consumer has to eat. And we see that with the consumer changing up different foodstuff, different product lines, just to make that rand stretch further. And unfortunately, that pressure is tremendous at this point in time.
So why have beef prices declined, and why haven't those reductions been passed on to consumers yet?
Well, by looking at the latest figures from the retail outlets, we can only assume that their cost structure has gone up. The retail sector has had tremendous costs just to keep the door open. Some reported the diesel cost of in excess of 420 million rand for the year. And unfortunately, those doors have to remain open, and to do that, they have to increase on their margins. And that effect, we can see on the beef, where the beef price has come down within the industry, but at the retail level, it could not come down, just because they need to keep the doors open.
So recently, a heated debate has broken loose around the position and potential of the red meat industry in South Africa. That's, of course, after Dewald Willifeed quoted a study by BFAB, the Bureau for Food and Agricultural Policy, which states that as much as 12 billion rand could be added to the agri-industry's GDP annually if certain strategic adjustments are made, mostly with regards to exports. And that would require industry restructuring. What's your take on the issue? Is that a realistic figure? And why is this restructuring, releasing this heated debate?
Off the top of my head, let's round the numbers down, that in the last 20 years, we've moved from a net importer of beef products or red meat products to a net exporter of beef products, which means that we've produced ourselves out of a market, as good South African farmers do. We produce too much product for this country to consume, and thus, if there's any more expansion to be added to our industry, we need export markets, and we need good export markets. The current ones we have are good markets, but they're all accessible throughout the world. They're not very special in that regard. We need access to better markets, and hopefully, from the visits to Saudi in the past year, renegotiations with China, and possibly the Malaysian markets, that will open up those opportunities for us as a South African agricultural industry. Now, that being said, we need to get certain practices in place, good biosecurity practices, and that doesn't come down only on a government level. That is a total industry chain that has to work together to keep the biosecurity measures in place and the requirements in place to maintain access to those markets.
Along with biosecurity, we also have to talk about vaccines. It's another hot talking point in the agricultural industry at the moment. A recent headline in a respected agricultural publication suggests that Onderstepoort Biological Products, and that's the company responsible for producing vaccines for the agricultural sector, should stop lying to farmers, and I'm quoting there. It certainly is a situation that has many people hot under the collar. What measures can be taken to improve disease control management and animal protection in the beef industry specifically to help us achieve those export increases?
Well, yes, the vaccines are an issue from Onderstepoort, and also we have to realize that sicknesses or illnesses like foot-and-mouth disease are mandatory reportable diseases, which means you have to report it, but also the vaccines are government controlled. So from industry side, we are trying to work with government to get a vaccination program for FMB in place as general to reinstate our FMB free status or green status per vaccination or as per vaccination. That's a different type of status. On farm level and industry level, we need to get proper biosecurity for ourselves in place. We need traceability. We have to focus on those things as an industry and not curb the measures that are in place or put in place to maintain those things. And unfortunately, that is what's going on and has been going on, is that we are in good Afrikaans net laks. That's the problem, because we get away with these things as an industry. We need to be more strict on our industry to protect our own industry.
Last question, very quickly. We're talking about exporting, we're talking about industry level strategic repositionings, but why should South African consumers care about that?
Correct. Why should the South African consumer care about the export and those actions? Look, if we as an industry can grow and we can add to GDP, we can add to jobs, we can add to the economy of South Africa, those things make South Africa a better place and a more stable place that we can raise our children with, make a good living in. That uplifts our economy. And yes, we might be faced with higher food prices, but we will also be faced with a bigger and stronger economy with more people in jobs being paid more.
Thank you so much for those insights into the beef industry. Roelie van Reenen, Supply Chain Executive at the Beefmaster Group.